Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of Patchats. Before I get into this introduction, it has been brought to my attention by my lovely wife that the introduction portion of the podcast is maybe painful or long-winded. And so if you're watching on YouTube, you can just simply skip right over this part and just get right to the conversation. There's the chapters right there at the bottom, so you can just skip right over. If you're listening on audio only, just skip 5 minutes ahead or so, give or take, and you'll be there at the conversation. So this week's guest is a Berlin-based comedian. She was born in New Zealand, grew up in Australia, studied Japanese. Her name is Anna Beros. She has a really interesting, at times funny, at times dark podcast called Adults Only, talking about adult subject matter. And she's a really funny comedian. She hosts some really great shows here in Berlin, and she's just, I have to say, on a personal note, when I showed up in Berlin this time to do stand-up, we had this little moment, and I don't know even if she would remember it, but it meant a lot to me. I don't even know if it was one of her shows or we were both on another show together. But I just remember after the show, I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm not good at socializing. I'm not good at being social. Like, I can be good at it, but sometimes I'm really not good at it. And like the comedian hang was challenging for me because, these people are like funny and cool in my mind. And that's my thing. I don't do well when I'm intimidated. If I don't think much of you, then it's no problem for me to be friendly with you. Or if I've had a couple drinks, then it's no problem for me to be friendly with you. But otherwise, it can be challenging for me. So I don't know, breaking in and feeling comfortable and feeling like I'm making some social connections with the other comedians here in Berlin was hard for me. And so after this show, I was just kind of standing off to the side, figuring out how I was going to get home. And Anna just came up to me and she was just like, I just wanted to say that it's like really nice to have you here in the scene. And that was like, it's just one of those little moments where you're like, that meant so much to me. That like put me at ease. And so she's just a very sweet and kind person and very funny. And so, we talked today about, where she grew up being a city kid versus a country kid. We talked a little bit about her time that she spent learning Japanese. We talked about comedy and creativity and, her first experience going on stage and different strategies for trying to stoke those creative embers. And then, I'm still figuring this podcast out. We're only 30 some episodes in. I'm still figuring out what the way is that it should be, how it should be. And I realized, I think one of the things I'm interested in is like firsts, and so we talked about like her first time on stage, the first joke that she wrote that she really liked, the first job that she had. And I think that's going to be, maybe that can be a theme that I try to stick with, is like, let's talk about firsts. So anyways, I experimented with that with Anna, and it was a really fun conversation. I had a great time talking to her, so hopefully that comes forward in the podcast as I would describe her as a comedian, me as an aspiring comedian. Afterwards, I feel like you're always like, was that funny? Was it funny enough? Could we have been more funny? And I don't know, that's for you guys to decide, but we had fun, and I think that's nice. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes, which means the people listening to the audio only who wanted to skip forward now, it's been enough time. So I think without much further ado, let's get into this episode with Anna Beros. But quickly, let me just say, definitely go follow Anna on Instagram, A Beros. The link is in the description below. I'm really sorry, Anna. That's not professional. But she plugs it at the end as well, and the link is in the description below. Go follow her on Instagram, Adults Only Comedy on Instagram, to come see some of her shows if you're going to be in Berlin or when she tours in Europe. Check out her podcast, Adults Only, wherever you get podcasts. All of the links are in the description if you're watching the video. And without much further ado, here is my conversation with Anna Beros. Enjoy. So, thank you for coming.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Really.
Just try to respect the volume control in the apartment.
I'm gonna be so loud.
But so to start, can you introduce yourself and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello. Should I speak to the cameras?
I mean, you can speak to the camera if you'd like, but
I'm a bit more of a face.
I set it up as a kind of like a across from each other conversation. Yeah. We have the second camera here if you want to cut to. We have the wide shot and then the ultra wide shot.
Oh, look at that! You're so professional.
Yeah, it's what I do to make up for not being funny.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, who am I? I'm Anna Beros. I'm a stand-up comedian, producer and podcaster as well, based in Berlin. I've been doing comedy now, coming up to my four years.
Nice. You're about to graduate.
I'm about to graduate. Yeah. Well, one more year is my master's of comedy.
Okay. Yeah.
And the first semester was a little bit lazier, but then the last how many do you count? Yeah, whatever. 3, whatever, 4, 5 have been pretty intensive. So I usually do shows every night, but I still look after children as a day job because I appreciate financial stability. And children are the best people. And what else about me? Yeah, and I'm from Australia, but originally from New Zealand. And I have sex with men and not that much with women. And I don't have any children. And that's
other than the ones that you care for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I get paid to care for.
And okay. Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that for free.
Nah, man, nah.
Yeah.
Unpaid labor,
So to start, I feel like a good place to start is, so you were born in New Zealand. What age did you move to Australia?
When I was 3.
When you were 3. So
I was like, fuck this place. And
yeah.
I packed my suitcases and went
You're
across.
like, I'm better than this.
I'm better. Bye, guys. And my dad got a job. And what my earliest memory is actually in the plane going from New Zealand to Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I vomited everywhere. My memory is sitting on like the baby tray table thing in the bathroom, and my dad like wiping me down and me being like.
I love that because one, I just immediately first was like in your parents' position, like it's probably kind of like traumatic and dramatic. Like we're moving countries, we're taking our 3-year-old on a plane, and now you're like. Great, and she fucking puked
everywhere.
And then next I was like, and then the other people on the plane, you see 3-year-old coming on the plane, you're like, oh, fuck. And
then it gets even
worse.
And
then it pukes.
And then the smell, and then the noise, and yeah. But so I'm really Australian, but like obviously with the issues with Australia, I don't know. Like if you were born in Canada but grew up in the States, you would.
I would say I was gonna. Exactly. I mean, there's a reason I always tell people I'm from California.
Yes.
It's like I'm trying to be like,
I'm from the good
ones.
part,
yeah.
And that's the same with Melbourne. It's like I'm from Melbourne. Like the rest of Australia, I'm like, it's a really problematic country.
In what way? Like because of in what way?
Yeah, I'd say in the same way that the States is problematic. Like the thing is, Australia follows the US in a lot of like international political moves, and then the history with the Indigenous Australians is horrific and really not like, you do see it that they before any event they will say, and we need to say thanks and acknowledge the rightful owners of the original people of the land, but there's a lot of in the average Australian mind, there's not a sense of gravity or like oof, like it was really bad, like a lot of, and also the attitude towards the Indigenous Australians is really and then also the treatment of refugees is really difficult.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just asking because it's like I think of Australia as being like more progressive than the States, for example.
I would not say so. No, but it's.
Even the acknowledgement. At least you're acknowledging.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
The acknowledgement is something.
It's still something. It is. But then it's like, I don't know, the pervading perception of Indigenous Australians as being like, oh, well, they're all alcoholics. It's like, well, you know what the colonists did, there's like, and it's not that they're all, but there's, whereas I'm not sure if the people in the US consider Native Americans, like, have this perception of them as being like lesser than, and
well, that's because we have the blacks for that.
Exactly. Look, we also have like a massive Asian population that we're like, oh yeah, they're Australian, but like yeah, it's look,
racism. It's a problem.
It is a problem. Not
should we solve it?
Yeah.
Let's
by
solve
leaving
it.
and just going somewhere else with like a better history. Yeah, Germany's great.
Yeah. Okay, but so you grew up in Melbourne then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I spent all my time in Melbourne.
And so I guess Australia, just to finish this little Australia is bad riff that we're on, but like, so is Australia follows, I'm guessing, kind of this same pattern of like the cities are more liberal and then it's like the more rural, smaller areas that there's more conservative ideology.
Yes.
And anyways, okay, let's move on from
but
that.
Melbourne's like New York or California. It's
and did you live like in the city proper? Did you grow up in a suburb?
I'm a super city girl. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not very good at like connecting with nature. Like I'm really used to just lots of people and noise, and I like feeling anonymous. And like I remember as a kid, like we would go into the city, this friend and we would like hang out at Hungry Jack's, which is like Hungry Jack's. It's called Burger King. It's called Hungry Jack's in Australia. And like we would like just hang out in the city and wander around the streets and like.
Okay, because that's what because I grew up in a small town, and so I'm always fascinated by you city kids because I'm like, so your parents just let you loose in the city.
Yeah. Like some days like we would just like catch a train and see where it went. Like we, and through the city and get off and be like, whoa, this is. Okay, that mum said not to come to Footscray. Okay, and then like get back on the train and trams and.
And did you have any then like negative experiences or?
No, I think it's funny. Like a lot of people consider cities dangerous, but it's like the more people there are, the safer you are. I feel. Mm. It's like I get kind of creeped out when I'm in the countryside and I'm like there's no one around, and like if there's one other person, that person can absolutely kill me. Without a witness,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like there's city unhinged and there's countryside unhinged, and like countryside unhinged is like I'm planning this, I'm stalking you, and I feel like city unhinged is just like I'm having a break and you were in the way and now you're dead.
I felt a bit triggered when you said unhinged and looked at me then, and I was like, I am city unhinged.
Yeah.
You're right, though. It is different. Yeah. Like, junkies or, just like, And just like, also there's got to be this, like the probability, like more people, more craziness.
Yeah.
And it's true, like mental health. I don't know about that. Statistics are always skewed, right? They always say that mental health is.
Also, I don't read them, so I don't know. I'm just.
But I'm so cynical of any statistic. Is like, oh yeah, rates of mental health are much worse in inner cities, but it's like, well, there's just more people there, and are the countryside people really honest about their mental health?
Yeah.
Like they don't have access to,
Yeah.
to therapists, whereas, so no.
Yeah.
So you're a country boy.
I was like an hour away from the city, so like we would go into the city sometimes, but like my town was very much like this kind of idyllic, like, just come home when the sun goes down kind of.
Wow.
Like, and beautiful, like really gorgeous. Yeah, I love where I'm from. I didn't love it then, but like now it's like a vacation to go home because it's like really like amazing.
That sounds lovely. Melbourne is not really like that, but it is. It's lovely, but it's just like, it's a big city, and it's.
Also, I feel like here's the difference sometimes. I feel like when I talk to city kids versus when I talk to like more small town kids, is like, for me, there was definitely like an idea from a young age of like, I gotta go, like I gotta get out of here, And I feel like city people sometimes it's less that way. Like they're like, I'm already in the place.
Totally, and I think a lot of people don't leave. Like majority of the people that I grew up with, no, they don't leave.
Yeah.
Whereas, for me, Melbourne just started feeling tiny.
Mm-hmm. And so did you...
Which sounds really, like, I feel Melbourne's just tiny. Like, 4
million
million people, it's just
not enough for me.
Who am I?
But, like, I don't know, you do... Like, because I lived in Seattle for a while. And, like, when I left Seattle, there was, like... I felt like I knew the archetype of like a lot of the characters.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I was like, I've met all of the characters. They should have ended the show 4 seasons ago.
Exactly. Exactly. I felt like I've met all the people that I want to meet in this city. Like,
yeah.
I know what's coming next, and I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting if Berlin feels like it's getting there, but comedy always changes things.
Yeah. I don't know. It's still new to me, but.
How long have you been here?
Well, I first came in 2019.
Okay, you're fresh.
Yeah.
I've been here since 2016, January, so I'm coming up to my 6-year anniversary.
Yeah. So anyway, never mind. I was going to say you celebrated Trump's election by moving to Berlin.
He came in. Did he come in at the start of 2016?
I think so. I don't know. I don't read statistics, so.
Yeah, I stopped reading the news a long time ago, but really 26. Yeah, I think he came a little bit later. I think there was. I don't know.
I think the election was in 2016.
Yeah,
but you're right. He was inaugurated in. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is stupid, but
I know that Prince died and David Bowie died and Leonard Cohen died all within 6 months of me moving to Berlin.
And do you take responsibility for that, or?
Yeah, they all died because of me moving to Berlin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
It was someone else too, but I can't remember. Yeah.
But so in Melbourne, did you go to school in Melbourne too?
Yes.
Then
yes.
And what is like the makeup of? Because I also think like I would say like one of the faults of like where I grew up. There's like a Latino community, but mostly it's like super white. And like, how is it in Melbourne? Are the cities in Australia like more diverse or?
Yeah, they are very diverse. Like what I found the weirdest moving to Berlin, even though Berlin is very multicultural, is the lack of Asian nationalities here. And so whenever I find myself on a train and there's like, in the first year here, whenever I'd find myself on a train and there'd be a couple of Asian nationality people, and I'll be like, it's like home. Yeah. Because there's a huge population of different Asian nationalities in Australia, and I studied Japanese, and so I had a lot of Chinese and Vietnamese friends, and Philippine, like all the nationality,
Yeah.
But outside of that, very white. There's also some Middle Eastern or Mediterranean. There's a lot of kind of children of old migrants, but fresh ones not so much.
Yeah. How did you? I've always wanted to ask you about this. Like, so you studied Japanese in your undergrad?
Yep.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, what led you to that?
Well, exactly. Much more diplomatic. Yeah. Well, at high school, even in primary school, I learned Italian. That was the second language. And then in high school, they offered French, Italian, and Japanese. And I didn't like my French teacher. And I loved languages. It was like there was something in me that was like, oh, this is a possible path to get out of this country, or just to have a culture. Like I just felt like there was a lack of culture around me, and which is probably also why I clung on to my Kiwi identity as well. It was just like, I don't know, like you see other people with cultures and you're like, where's mine? You know, where's mine? Like, oh, cool, we eat lamb on Sunday. What a culture. And so in high school, I just continued with the languages because I really like language and culture. And then I finished high school and it was like, oh, I should probably study something that's more useful, like Arabic and Indonesian. And then I was like, but why throw away all of my knowledge? Like I did well in languages. I had a good level of Japanese and Italian when I finished high school. So I was like, just keep doing it. Keep do what you like, you know. And I was gonna do law, but then I saw all the law students really unhappy in the first year, and I was like, I'm just gonna do this degree that sounds useless, Japanese, Italian, and politics. And I ended up graduating with a very high level, like the highest, because that coming in from that university, like high school level, and then continuing it at uni. But
So, like, could you, at that time or now still, like, if you go to Japan, could you kind of like...
Oh, yeah, I can still chat, and I can, and it doesn't take long for me to... It doesn't take long. But, I can get my level back up.
Yeah.
Writing would take longer, but, the speaking... Yeah.
Why do you think you liked... I don't know. I'm always just fascinated by people. My mother is, like, someone who loves languages. She taught herself Spanish and then became a therapist. Like, she does therapy in Spanish. And she did that when she was, like, 50. And
wow,
I'm like,
that's cool.
You're a psycho. But like, I don't know. For me, it's just, like, I get it. I get the appeal. Like, when you start getting a little bit, I'm like, oh, this is, like, exciting.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like, what drew you to that?
Really, the culture. But also, for example, Japanese. The writing system is so interesting. Like, it's so satisfying to understand. There's like this whole level of meaning within like Japanese characters that are either originally from China or they were made or they were originally Japanese characters, but they're like what is it? Ideograms. Ideograms? Wow, it's been a long time since I've talked about language. Comedy's killing me here. That's all I'm doing. But basically, in each
it doesn't matter what you say, to be honest, because to me, I'll be like, oh, interesting. Like, I had no idea.
It's not ideograms. It's I think it's it doesn't matter. But each like character will have different meanings for each each part of it. So there might be like person and river and sky, and that'll be like electricity.
I mean, I guess it's like fascinating in the sense of like, oh wow, like just to see the way another language and like symbols and what brings meaning. But when you describe that to me, it sounds like long division, and I've never liked math.
I love math.
Okay.
And also language learning is a lot like math. Okay. And so I loved math and I loved languages, and it's like putting things together to create sense. And but it's also like learning languages. It informs like culture and language are so intertwined that like how Japanese is formed says a lot about the Japanese mentality. Mm-hmm. And so how they arrange sentences, like you have to think backwards. Like, for an English speaker, for example, much like German has a different form to English as well. And so it's like by understanding the language, you understand how the brains work of the native speakers and sort of the logic, and that's fascinating.
Yeah. That sounds fascinating for you.
Yeah. I really
No, I do think it's cool. So did you ever go to Japan then?
Yeah. When I was in high school, we did a 3-week exchange. I was at a home stay. So I lived with a Japanese family for it was 2 weeks, and we went to their school. And
Oh, cool. That must have been really like such an interesting experience.
yeah, it was intense because they really didn't speak English. And like the first day we arrived in Japan, like we got dropped off at our families, and then we had the whole weekend. And so it was like, boom, like no friends, no English. I was just like, okay, this is terrifying. And it was amazing, yeah. And so 2 weeks with them, and then we did a week of traveling up back to Tokyo, and then I went again when I was 25, when I was trying to decide if I wanted to do a PhD or a master's in Japanese or Italian, because I was like, I have to now specialize. And
because if you get a PhD, then essentially you could teach the language, or
nah, you just become, irrelevant, and you've written something. You've got a letter behind your name, a couple of letters. But it wasn't in order to be able to teach. I didn't think I wanted to lecture or work at a university. No, it was more just like, I think people do PhDs when they don't know what else to do. And they have this sense that there's some prestige attached to academic success. And I think I was still I finished my degree as soon as I could, and then I was like, I'm not staying in academia. Like, this is useless, like ivory tower bullshit, And so I went straight into working. I'm like, I want to be useful. But then I wanted to keep my options open. So before I went back for like the fourth year where you write a thesis, I went traveling for a year around the world, and I spent 6 weeks in Japan by myself, and I also spent like quite a bit of time in Italy to decide like which direction I would go. And my 6 weeks in Japan made me realize I do not want to do anything more with Japanese. Yeah, because it's very very sexist. It's really hardcore. I hadn't felt that marginalized and judged, and not like that. Like the only comparative was in Turkey. And just the way I was looked at, the way I was spoken to, the way I was sort of, even though I spoke the language, it was like, I had some really bad moments in Japan where it was just like, wow, no respect.
Yeah. And what was that, like, I feel like a lot of times when you meet somebody who's done a trip like that, where you take a year and you're just like, do you feel like that kind of changed your path or your direction?
Yes.
I mean, obviously it made you be like, not Japanese.
Yes.
But were there other things that you took from that experience?
From which part? Like Japan, or
from being, a year of like, you're meeting new people constantly, you're by yourself, you're becoming, some type of self-reliant and, I mean,
it was a groundbreaking, massive change. Yeah, absolutely. That whole year was insane. So it was like, well, it wasn't a whole year. It was like 10 months, but it was 6 weeks in Japan, then a couple of weeks in the UK, Scotland, and then I did. Then it was 3 months traveling around Europe, East and West and East, and then lived in Turkey for 3 months because my boyfriend at the time was studying in Turkey for an exchange.
Okay.
And then lived in Turkey for 3 months, and then went to the States and spent about a month, New York and San Francisco and LA.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So it changed me forever. Like broke up with my boyfriend when I got back. Woo.
Yeah.
Ended up writing a thesis in Italian about Italian comedies. So this was like the first.
Yeah.
I never thought about doing comedy, but like I wrote a thesis about comedy. So.
Yeah. So that was something I wanted to like touch on in kind of like your childhood before like leading into comedy. I'm always interested to hear like what people's first kind of like connection to comedy or like being funny is,
Yeah.
you know, because like for myself, like if I think about like this, the first thing that really made me like love comedy is my parents didn't let me have TV, but like every once in a while I would go with my mom to her law office and I could rent VHS tapes, and I would rent the Three Stooges. And as a 6-year-old, I've still never, like, I wish I could laugh like that. But like, you know, where it's like you can't breathe, like you're dying at just these guys in black and white beating the shit out of each other.
I've never watched the Three Stooges.
It's not funny anymore. Like, you watch it now and you're like, yeah,
That's not all
I don't
right.
know. But for a 5-year-old, like, it was hilarious.
Yeah. VHSs. Yeah, I think I the first time I heard the word comedian was like in primary school, and this girl, it was like one of my first days at this new primary school, and this girl was like, Winnicky was her name. And she was like, "You're a comedian."
She said that to you?
Yeah. And I was like, "What's a comedian?" I didn't know what that was.
And she's like, loud.
Exactly. I was not a loud kid though, really. That developed, I guess. But then I remember the VHS thing, we had a TV. And I remember at one period in my childhood, my parents had cable. It didn't last long because my brother and I got addicted to TV, right? But I remember watching. We were massive into SNL, and into Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, Whose Line is so good. Yeah,
so good. And I also like grew up on Seinfeld, of course, and loved that stuff, and Friends. But also we had our local video store. We would, they had the weeklies or the new releases, and I would get like 5 weeklies, and I would always just go to the comedy section. I was only interested in the comedies. Did like a whole sort of education of like, I guess, educated myself in American comedy cinema, and
like movies, not stand up.
Yeah, movies. Yeah, I only really started getting exposed to stand up, I guess, later, like in my early 20s. I remember watching Eddie Murphy's Raw. That was probably one of the first like stand-up specials that I actually watched.
Yeah, I mean, Australia, my understanding was like Australia has like a pretty, like has somewhat of a stand-up scene and stuff, right? Like,
yes.
So is there also then like Australian versions of like The Tonight Show or Saturday Night Live or that kind of thing on TV?
Yeah, we had, there was not exact, yes, there are those, and those more recently. When I was growing up, there were also 2 shows called Fast Forward and Full Frontal, and they were like sketch shows that were very, very, very funny. And I love my family. We loved that stuff so much, and very Australian humor. Like watching it now, also looking back, it's like extremely inappropriate. Like politically not correct.
But that's also, I think, an interesting thing about comedy generally is it's like it doesn't age well. Like it is of the moment. It
is, and like what's. Nothing. Everything is in the moment, though. Really.
Yeah. What isn't in the moment, man?
Exactly, but like everything is tied to when, like the time it was made and what was happening around it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. But I just mean like with music, for example, like you're right in the sense that it's like if I'm listening to like some like 70s classic rock band thing, I'm like. It's making me nostalgic for a time I was never a part of, but like that still kills. But like I can go back and watch like George Carlin and Richard Pryor and be like, oh, I get why this is like important, but it doesn't make me laugh like like when I first like watching Louis or Bill Burr or
totally.
And I need to turn on the camera again for a second.
No problem.
I'm so unprofessional.
No, you're not. I'm got a runny nose. I'll wait.
We're maybe I'm gonna have. Okay, good. Wait, did I? Okay. I had like a minute where I'm like, did I not even
start?
Maybe we'll just leave it in. Whatever. It's raw. It's just real. It's so raw and real. It's authentic.
It's just
But so Eddie Murphy Raw was like one of the first stand-up specials that you saw, and then like was it like an immediate thing, or like what kind of planted the seed or just got you kind of like going down the rabbit hole a little bit?
There was no going down the rabbit hole with comedy until I got to Berlin. Like there is the stand-up scene in Australia, but and I went to see comedians perform stand-up, but I really...
Like amateur or professional?
Professional, and went to a couple of open mics, I remember, in my, like when I was 19 or 20 or something, and then saw a couple of comedians for this. There's a big comedy festival in Melbourne, but I never ever thought of comedy, like stand-up comedy as a anything to do. Like no way. Like I wasn't attracted to it at all. And these comedians that I saw were generationally, I've said it before, but it's a bit lame, but it's like they weren't cool.
Yeah.
There was nothing attractive about being that. It was like, make some funnies and that's cool. But I didn't see, I never considered doing it. I had considered doing maybe acting. I loved acting, but I was always the kind of person that was like, oh, everyone wants to do it, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah. And so I was more interested in doing music.
Okay.
And I was like writing poetry and wanting to write songs and doing like singing and stuff. But comedy, it was only when I got to Berlin and I came here to do music. And I went to an open mic, and because I had a friend who's friends with a comedian in the scene, and it was great. And after that first open mic that I went and saw, I started writing a screenplay for a TV series that was supposed to be funny, but not really like needing to be funny. It was just like my life's a joke, and so I wanted to like maybe create something that autobiographical, whatever, and then. Yeah, it was only because I became friends with comedians and started sort of supporting it more that I was like...
Maybe I should...
Maybe. Well, it was mainly because Toby Arsalan was like, you should do it. And I was like... It still wasn't a thing that I thought... You know?
But you were drawn to the idea of like performing. Or like, like that there was some allure to the feeling of like being on stage and...
Not even. It was more like just producing something that was thought-provoking and new. That was the only... And that was with music. Like that was all...
Yeah.
I only ever wanted to like just create something that, was interesting and different.
And so then... You're going to some like comedy shows and whatnot, and then so someone's like, "Hey, you should give it a shot."
Yeah.
And what was that? What was your preparation like for that, and what was that first experience like?
Yeah. So basically, Toby gave me the link for the John Roy comic. John Roy is the comedian, and he's written a great Tumblr thing of like how to start stand-up comedy. He gave me that, and so I started reading that. And then there's some exercises and stuff, and I was like, okay. And also just started writing. Like I wrote like 5 pages of stuff that I thought was funny, I guess, about me, and then went through the process of, and I set myself a date for when I was going to do it by, and I was just like, I'm just going to do it. Like I've got nothing left. Like I was working in a business that was going bankrupt. I was, everything was just all over the place, financial mess, like just, so wrote these 5 pages, cut it down, memorized it. And had it in mind that I was going to do it on the 31st. I said by the end of January, so I did it on the 31st of January. Yeah. And
got it in there. Technically counts.
I did it. And it was incredible. Like I did it, and my boyfriend at the time filmed it, and so I haven't had the guts to look at the recording. But still, but it was, afterwards I was like so high, and it was just like, I made these people laugh, and like these things worked, and And yeah, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to do this at least 3 times a week. And yeah.
And that's super interesting because I feel like I can. Do you feel like that is part of your like personality that way? Because I was thinking about that for myself recently. It's like that is kind of who I am, where it's like I do something and then I'm like, well, now I'm gonna do it 3 times. So, like once, you know.
Yeah.
Like I went camping or I went backpacking once. And then I quit my job and decided to live out of my car and just spend 4 months backpacking. And I had gone one, like I didn't realize until the like second week, and I was like, I've only gone camping like once. Like I'm gonna do this for like 4 months.
Really
now.
committed.
Like,
Wow.
So, but
That's
is that like?
interesting.
Would you say that's like typical to your personality to be like, I tried it, and or was that specific to comedy that it was like, oh, this is a thing and I want to like throw myself into it?
I would say I throw myself into things that I enjoy, and it was like I really enjoyed that. So I was like, I wanna get good, and it was also the other appeal of it was the comment, which was, if you keep doing it, you will get better. Now, it seems obvious to say something like that, but that kind of blew my mind. I was like, if I keep doing it, I'll get better.
Yeah.
It's so obvious, right? That blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, sometimes though you need someone to say something like that. You know, it's like like I feel like a lot of the like big you know, kind of like moments of like, whoa, that I've had, like psychedelic moments, you know, where you're like, wow, that it's all shit that it's like, right, you know?
But
like,
it's when the penny drops. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the fact that it's actually connected with, you know, your world vision or your...
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would say I like Japanese and Italian, you know, it was just like, I like it, so I'm going to keep doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Like comedy, it's like, I like this, like I really like this, I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah, so... Yeah, which is why I think I might go sober again, because like I like this, I keep doing it. No,
being sober, you mean?
no, I mean drinking.
Oh. That's the other side of that. If you like something, you
I wouldn't say I have an addictive personality, and I am quite moderate. But yeah, I don't know. Comedy. Is
I
like,
would say I have an addictive.
Oh yeah. I would say I'm pretty moderate, but I think other people would argue that that's not true.
I feel like the saving grace is just it's if you know that you're like it's something to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's just my security blanket that I'm like, no, it's fine because I'm aware that I need to be aware of it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair. But no, it's just funny, this comedy thing. Like, yeah, I feel like I'm looking at my life right now. I'm like, it's all very random.
But so the music thing, like at that, when you started doing stand-up, were you still doing music stuff? Like, do you
Yeah.
still do music stuff now?
Yeah, and the music's actually become more of a thing now, which is great. So, when I moved to Berlin, I didn't have an instrument, and I decided to commit to an instrument when I finally got a bit of emotional stability. No, financial stability. I decided I wanted to teach myself bass, and so I bought a bass, and then played around with it, but like, and I would jam with my various, you know, the boyfriend that I had, and then like other lovers, and then I was like, I really need to find someone I can jam with who I'm not fucking.
Yeah.
And that happened.
But the chemistry just wasn't the same.
Well, I managed to find someone, and so that happened at the start of 2020, and really, like, we were like, let's make music together.
Yeah.
He's the husband of a friend of mine, and he's now like a great friend, and I started on the bass, he plays guitar, but yeah, I ended up moving to drums. So then I ended up buying an electronic drum kit for the second lockdown. And so, yeah, now I would consider myself a drummer as well as a bassist and sing. And we've got a band, and we finished recording our album, and we're just finalizing the edits. So we're planning to get it mastered and release it for the end of January.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So Have you guys like played out like any live gigs and stuff?
We did our first one like 2 weeks ago at Sunday Slips. We did,
cool.
we did 2 songs, and then they did the one more song. I was like, told you, we prepared for a third. So I've now finally performed live music as an adult.
And how is that feeling like similar or different to like your first open mic, for example, or just comedy in general?
Yeah, I was terrified, so that was similar. But yeah, I think there's a huge, like I've often had relationships with musicians, and so I've made the comparison a bit of what stand-up is versus what music is performing. And the thing is, comedy is really a conversation with the audience, whereas music is extremely selfish. It's like, well, we're gonna play this if you like it or not.
Your eyes are closed. You're not even looking at the audience.
You don't even have to look at them. You don't even have to look at them. You don't even have to acknowledge them. You can just perform, And so having that sort of already in my head when I went up on stage, I was still extremely nervous because I trust my mouth. I trust what I speak, but trusting my fingers. So I played on bass for this performance because drum kits, venues, Berlin.
Yeah.
Difficult. I was terrified. And my bandmate was just like, Anna, you perform every night. And I was like, but there's a difference. My fingers, it's my fingers. And, and I wasn't even that nervous about singing, which was interesting. Because I've sung, I guess, a little bit in front of people, but it was the playing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a weird and interesting thing about instruments anyways, is that it's like that it's like that sometimes you could like lose yourself where you don't, like you all of a sudden you realize like I'm not telling my fingers to do it, like they're just doing it.
Totally. Yeah. It's a very different. Yeah, it's like the flow state of being in comedy. Like you sometimes get that with stand up. You're in a flow state and you're just like, wow, this is just like, there's a energy running through you that you're. It's almost like but you still need to stay conscious. But as soon as you become conscious of that flow state, then you're like, I can't keep it. They're gonna stop.
I'm losing
it. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. So, what would be your kind of like dream scenario then?
Oh, the dream scenario is that. Oh, I know. I had this. I realized what it was when we were recording the album because we had 2 days in a studio, and the week before we rehearsed at rehearsal rooms like 3 times or 4 times, and so in that period of time, I realized exactly what I want to be doing is, and of course I do comedy every night. So the dream is to be making music. And be able to like have a recording, be able to be on the drums, be able to be loud, right? Make music, play music live, as well as be producing. I'm not so excited. Producing is not my passion. Doing stand-up is my passion.
Yeah.
So I think the ideal state is to be making music, writing comedy, performing comedy. I guess production might still come into it. That's
But
it.
you've also like written like for TV and stuff before, right? Like is that exciting to you, or is that more like a financial thing?
Oh, I love writing. It's a financial thing, but it's very enjoyable. I like the mental exercise of it, and there's no satisfaction in it because the producers will do whatever they want, and that's fine. It's not about seeing some baby grow. It's just about the having the sex. The babies don't
just throw them out with the bathwater.
Exactly. They're just. It's really but yeah, I really enjoy writing. Yes.
Yeah.
And I would like to do more of that. It's a bit of a thing in Germany. It's like you can write in English for German productions, but obviously German writers are gonna get preference. But I'm working on German comedy too, so maybe I'll get more work there. But yeah, writing, performing, music.
Is there a crossover between between the way you approach doing your music and the way you approach doing your comedy? Like, Yeah, what does
Yeah.
that process look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, I think trusting yourself. Okay, so I think with comedy, like, you know how I said I my first show, I was like, by the end of January I'll do it, and it was the 31st of January.
Yeah.
And I think and that was a good tip from my friend who got me into doing comedy, was to say, like, you need mics in order to write material. You need to be performing regularly in order for that creative process to be working. Without shows, it is really hard to, like, you can be like, I'm going to sit down and write for 30 minutes, but it's like, if you don't have the carrot of performing, it's really tough.
And the pressure.
It's the pressure. Yeah, exactly. It's the pressure of, like, I don't want to be saying those old jokes
Yeah.
again. I want some new stuff. Like, you know, and feeling good about it. So yeah, that pressure. But then you've got the creative process. First, you need the pressure. You need to be having shows ahead of you. You need to, or having a project, you know, like, I want to write this thing for this, you know, like, you need to have some deadlines, which is the shows. And so with music, it's a bit different. You don't really have the deadlines, I guess. But what you do have is, like, a jam session booked. You know, you'll be like, I've got this rehearsal room, so maybe I want to find some riffs or find some new drum beats before I go there. So definitely having, like, a physical commitment to doing the thing, booked.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Required, I would say. That I need that. And then a big part of creativity, I think, is trusting yourself. Like, it's all in there. It's all in there, and it's gonna come out in some way. And, like, with jokes, for example, you can write, but, like, what's funny will hit you, and you will write it down.
Yeah.
And trusting that that it will come is hard, because you'll be like, I need to be a better comedian. Like, why are these jokes coming? And it's like, it's a bit of both. It's like, I think the funny stuff will come, but then you do also need to sit down and actually work it.
Yeah.
And form it and make it tight. And, you know, write, like, something can be funny, but, like, writing in the punchlines is something else.
And do you feel like that when you're coming up with like a riff on the bass or thinking of, like, some lyrics, does that feel like it's coming from the same place as when, you know, the idea for a joke comes to you?
I haven't analyzed that before. I would say music is, like, so unself-conscious. Like, it's so, like, unconscious. Like, it just kind of, like, you'll have, like, a thing going around your head, and then you're like, oh, I'll try and make that. And whereas, and I think, like, I don't think you choose what you think is funny. Just like you don't choose what music is going around your head. Like, obviously you have, like, everything informing you, which is the environment that you create for yourself. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's from the same place, because it's.
But also, I think as someone, because, like, you know, I started comedy. I did it for, like, 6 months when I was, like, 22 back in 2012, and then I stopped because I was like, part of it was I got really into raving, but, like, also that was part of it, but also I thought, like, I just thought music was so much cooler, and I wanted to do, like, music stuff, and I was like, but ultimately, like, I hear bits in my head all the time. There's, like, a narrative, there's, like, that thing is there, but I don't hear, like, what you're describing, like, oh, you kind of have, like, an idea of, like, a loop of some sort of music, and it's like, I could, like, noodle around. I, like, you know, I played the saxophone, and, like, I was, like, practicing all the time.
That was my first instrument.
Really?
Sax, yeah.
Loud.
Yes. And, like, not that cool, you know? Like,
I think the saxophone is pretty cool. It's the sexiest instrument, in my opinion.
Me too, but then you're wearing that, like, little belt thing, and you're like, oh, I'm more like Lisa Simpson now than, like, that cool jazz musician I thought, you know? Like, it's.
Yeah, well, okay, the belt thing is
The belt thing is not cool.
Yeah. I started playing the saxophone when I was, like, 12, and that was the only thing my parents and I ever really, really fought about is my mom wanted me to practice my fucking saxophone, and I didn't want to fucking do it, mostly because she was trying to make me do it. And in a fun plot twist, when I moved home to live with my parents when I was 25, I was like, I'm playing the saxophone again.
like, oh,
and they were like, no. And that was the second time we fought.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But anyways, what was I trying to get to with that? So I don't hear the music.
Yeah.
So what about like, do you have like tips or like strategies to try to like create space to, you know, take the ideas and spin them around and see, you know, what you can do with them?
Strategies to produce more?
Like, I guess, like, for myself, you know, like, the last 6 months, actually, since I've been doing stand-up, like, super regularly since I got back here, I'm in, like, the best shape I've been in a long time, because I discovered that, like, if I go running, that's just like a great, like I can think about the bits, and like then I can look at them in new ways, and like if I go running, then I can really sit down and write well and like get something there, and so like that's become a strategy for me. Or like I've like going for a walk, like I don't sometimes like, and I don't listen to music that can make me think of something, you know. So like that for me is what I mean.
Yeah. Definitely consuming less helps, you know, like of everything really. Like I do go through like long periods where I'm not listening to any music. Like I listen to music a lot, but like, like I'll have stretches at home where it's just silence, and that allows me to think. Riding my bike, for sure. Helps me think, and helps me sort of process. I meditate most days, and work out, like in that, you know, I can, things will hit me. I guess, I don't know. I'm in a bit of a strange, transition. I don't know. I'm in a different point of existence right now.
A physical one, or
bit of everything, really. Like I'm in a very new different state that I've ever existed in, just in terms of like my living. Like I'm living by myself again, which is great, but I'm also like, it's the first time I'm like, my job is only every second week, so I have a lot of time by myself to actually work on comedy. And a lot of that goes into production, though. And so in terms of like actually sitting down and working stuff, like I do a lot of my writing on stage when I'm hosting, when I'm in a comfortable enough space to like stories come out or whatever. Or and so my most of my writing and happens right before shows.
Yeah.
Like that's,
I've had some of my best ideas on the U-Bahn to a show.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I sometimes like I say that riding the bike is good, but also riding the bike, it can create space, but then also it doesn't allow you to write it down. So it's like you can have all these ideas, but then you stop and you're like,
what were they?
Yeah. Whereas on the U-Bahn, it's like, okay, you're on the train, you're able to have everything in front of you and map stuff out very visually. So I don't know. It's, you find the time, you know. Yeah. I like sitting outside. Fresh air helps.
And do you find like, so you're in this new stage where it's like you're working less, you have your own place, and do you feel like having more space, like, is that helpful? Because sometimes like for myself, like what you were talking about with deadlines being important, sometimes I have to say, like, I'm a very, like, I hate structure. I don't want any structure. Don't tell me what to do. But then it is a bit like, I need a little bit of structure.
Yeah, no, I need a bit of structure. I find the week that I don't look after the kids, in my nanny job, and there's still lots, like, I also feel like with the pandemic, you know, structure is a little bit all over the place. Like, I'll be producing a lot of shows, and then it's like, now it's Christmas, and it's like, oh, what am I doing now? Like, we're having a bit of a break, and it's like, oh, I guess I should be working on some other things, but trying not to pressure myself, because things, you know, I don't like this whole thing of like, be productive, because I think it's sick and it makes like just be,
Yeah.
like you will do what you want to do, and you'll do what you need to do in order to make your foundation stable, and you'll do what you enjoy, and sort of this pressure to always be producing. So yeah, in this week where I don't look after the children, I'll end up doing a lot of production stuff, or I don't know, and I do feel a bit like I've just spent like 8 hours in front of my computer, and like I haven't gone outside once, and now I'm gonna go to a show, and it's like, and I know I've done a lot of stuff, but it's like the lack of structure has made me feel a little bit weird, and also not living with people. I was living with people for 3 years, and so it's like I haven't even spoken to anyone. You know? Maybe I'll call mom. Oh no, that'll take 2 hours. I'm not gonna do that. Like my time is precious.
But that's an interesting thing that I feel like that you just talked about, that I've been running into for myself recently, is that it's like, I feel like a huge part of my life, or like my 20s, was like me being like, I want a thing. Like, what is my thing? And then for the first time in my life, I feel like I found the thing.
Yes.
And also it like crazily coincides with the first time in my life that I always felt like I'm not like just good at anything. Like I can't just show up and be good at anything. And for once I feel like, I kind of showed up and I was just like, I had a little something, know?
Yeah.
But because of that, I feel like I am like always throwing myself into, like, if I'm not working, I'm like, I should be doing something right now. Like I gotta be like, I gotta like, I found a thing. I gotta do it. And so being able to try to find a space to like just relax and enjoy a chill night has been challenging. Because even when I'm sitting there, then I'm like, well, and then with that bit, I could
totally. And it doesn't stop, right? It doesn't. It doesn't stop.
I feel like I've like found my thing, and it's so thrilling, but I've also never been less present than I am.
That's interesting, because you found your thing. But no, I'm also very manic. Like all my life, I've always worked multiple jobs. Like from the time I could work, like 14, there was school, and then I had a side job, and then like another side hustle. And like I've always been very busy. Like I've always worked a lot and been, busy trying to figure out what my thing is as well. And so at the moment, I'm really, I'm trying to give myself, rest spaces, and because the stuff bubbles up, but I'm still not very good at it as well. Like it's still, it's still this manically. It's not so manic. Like I'm chill, but it's hard to not feel like you should be doing something, and to put that out, and to just trust the process.
If you could like go back and give the version of Anna who is going to her first open mic like a piece of advice, is there something that sticks out in your mind that like you wish you could tell that Anna who's beginning her comedy journey?
Oof. I don't know. What would I tell myself?
Or so let's you can ruminate on that, and maybe something will come and maybe something won't, and we can
I get all Buddhist on it. I'm like, she'll learn, she'll figure it. Like I wouldn't have listened to myself anyway.
Well, I mean, that is like a part of life, right? It's like you just figure it out as you
got to make your
and
it's like it's like doing comedy. It's like you just have to do it.
Yeah.
There's no one thing that's going to make you better by knowing it or hearing it, I think. Yeah.
Well, okay, so I've what I love about your podcast, Adults Only, check it out. Adults Only, check it out. I feel like this camera's dead and I got to go turn it on. Give the Adults Only. Tell the people where to find your stuff.
Okay, so Adults Only Comedy Berlin. Adults Only Comedy Berlin is my podcast. It's available everywhere. But
the link is in the description below. I don't think I'm in the shot when I keep looking at this camera. The link is in the description below.
So many cameras. But yes, I speak with a different comedian every week, and we talk about adults only topics, and It's fun. And you're going to be on the podcast this
Yay!
week.
I'm excited.
Woo! I'm excited too.
Okay, so what I was getting to with that was what I love about your podcast is like you have this like it's like there's a theme and there's a direction to it to some extent.
Yeah.
You know, you have like a kind of an idea of it, and that's something I'm still trying to figure out with what am I doing here? What is this? And so my new idea is, you know, like I love asking people about their childhoods, and then like I love asking people about their getting into comedy. And I was like, what is the theme of this? And it's like I love talking to people about like their first experiences. And so you just talked about like, so I thought one maybe I could ask you about is like you just mentioned, what was your first job and what was that like?
Yeah. My first job was, well, I created my own business.
You're an entrepreneur.
I am. I really am. And I had a dog walking and car washing business in my neighborhood.
Okay.
I made flyers, and so I would walk dogs and I would wash cars. I had a couple of clients. My dad was my biggest client for the car washing. It was $10 for the inside clean and $10 for the outside, and like bought myself a big brush and a bucket, and I had my stuff, and I would walk dogs. But the dog walking became quite dangerous because these dogs, I couldn't control them.
Like, were you trying to take multiple dogs at once?
No, I wasn't that successful as a business owner. I only had like two dog. I had one dog walking client, and then I had this other one across the street, and this dog was terrifying. It was called Tiger, and I took it walking once, and on that walk, it attacked two old men.
Oh, Jesus. Wait, sorry, maybe you mentioned this, but how old were you?
13.
13.
Yeah. And then my first job, then as soon as I could get a real job, I worked at my brother was the manager at KFC, and my first job was at KFC when I was 14 years old and 7 months. The legal age was 14 years and 9 months, but I was like, I want it so bad.
I gotta work at KFC.
I want to smell like that.
Yeah.
And I was very motivated to be financially independent. And the biggest motivation was because I wanted to go to Japan, actually.
Okay. So
On
that's
this
what I
exchange.
wanted to ask you. So for you, the motivation was you wanted to pay for this exchange?
Yep, I wanted to. Yeah, and I just wanted to be able to buy what I wanted, and but to go to Japan was the real.
But yeah,
I needed $3,000, and my parents were like, "We'll pay for half," and I was like, "Gotta get $1,500."
And when you're 14, that's a lot of money.
Bit of money, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of money now, actually.
It is actually. It is, yeah. And I worked really hard. I would work like 20 hours a week. Two 10-hour shifts. I would try to work 20 hours a week, yeah.
When I first started working, my big motivation was I just wanted to buy baseball tickets. I loved baseball at that age, and I was just like obsessed to go to games.
That's so cool. That was maybe too enthusiastic.
I don't know if it was that cool.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's an activity as opposed to a consumable.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right.
But I think for me, when I look back at that phase of my life and my obsession with sports, it was like, now I'm like, oh, you were just like, I was so like, I want to be like a guy. Like, I'm one of the guys. Like, look at this thing I'm into. This is my personality.
Yeah, but it's also community.
Sports community, though, like when people say that about sports community, I'm like, okay, that's partially true. But the only time I've ever seen a 50-year-old man scream in anger at a 10-year-old child is at a sports game. You know, like so there's also like icky community in sport.
I don't like sports. I don't like sport now. I was very disapproving of sports for a very long time. Whatever.
But so the thing I wanted to ask you about that was like sometimes I also though look back at because I think my first job I was 15. I started bagging groceries.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Also not that cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm like everything you say. I'm like, cool.
I feel like you're just really trying to yes and me. You're like, let's make this podcast a little bit more exciting, Patrick. But like, there's part of me that I think back at that time, and I'm like, okay, yes, I wanted like these baseball tickets and these like baseball T-shirts and stuff, and but part of me is like, man, like, why did I like jump into like starting to work? Like, these were the last few years I could have just.
You really look back and regret it? No, I think
you don't.
Oh, absolutely not. I think I'm a better person because I've worked for so many years. Like, I think it showed me how to make friends in different contexts. It showed me how to deal with authority or not deal with authority. I had serious attitude problems. My first job, my mum kept this a secret from me, but my manager called her once and was just like, your daughter has such an attitude problem.
And your mom was like, I know.
But this guy was a friend of mine. Like, I ended up like being a friend of his, I thought. Yeah, and it wasn't until like 2 years later that mum was like, yeah, Mark once actually called us and complained about your attitude problem to us. Like, what, you call the parent? You call the parents of your employee? Like,
well,
you need to grow up.
Was this at the KFC?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you hire a 14-year-old, like, what do you
expect?
Yeah.
But I also ended up having like a love affair with one of the managers as well, which was completely pedophilia, because he was 24 and I was 15.
Yeah.
Not
great.
Not okay. Not okay. So like, I think it was really great that I started working that young, because I started making mistakes really early. But like, financial independence, learning how to do processes, like I think it was great. I'm not like, oh, I wasted those years of.
I mean, I don't feel like I wasted it. I just feel like, and I mean, I think this in general about like being a teenager is like, I feel like part of being a teenager is you're like, fucking let me be an adult.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And
I think all of childhood is that. Like, I look after this 9-year-old and 6-year-old, and they're like, we can do that by ourselves. And it's like, no, you just cut your finger. Like, you don't know how to cut an onion. Like, they're always wanting to be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, cutting your finger, it happens at any age.
It does. Look,
but my point is just that I'm like, sometimes I look back at that period and I'm like, I wish I could have just, like, I had some of my friends didn't get jobs, and you're right, they also probably didn't have the same work ethic, and you know, there's some things lost there. But also, I mean, you only have these few years where like the whole thing is just, what are you gonna do with your friends that day? You know? And so sometimes I just think like, I was gonna get a job at 17 anyways. Maybe I could have had 2 more years of just being a kid before I like got into that.
Yeah, I wasn't that into being a kid, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, nah, I wanted to be doing something. I wanted to be contributing to society.
Yeah. At the KFC. You know?
At the KFC, exactly.
You're a foundational institution of fried chicken.
Mashed potato, baby. I made some great
Yeah.
potato mash. But I was also thinking, I did think that my cool comments about your baseball and your packing groceries, I think it's because I'm seeing you in the States, and like, it's a different world. Like baseball, like we didn't really have we didn't have baseball in Australia, and then like packing groceries, like that was a job that you could only get when you're older in Australia. You couldn't like the supermarkets didn't hire really young. Like they would wait until you were older. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe the fast food restaurants were happy to get you
They
in.
were like, all right, someone's got to do it.
Yeah, right.
Well, so what about, like, since we're talking about this, like, do you have a memory of like a time, like a first time that you really felt like you were an adult? Like, have you had one?
I'm not sure.
No, but I mean, like, for me, like, I remember the first time my parents let me go into San Francisco, like, just me and my friend by ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, we took the ferry in and then, like, just going around the city, and it was like, holy shit, like, we're like adults.
I would say the most adult I felt would be like when I got married.
Yeah, that's totally one.
Yeah, that was like, all right. And being able to be like, you know, and then like, this is my husband. Like, that was like, oh, because you all of a sudden you have these new titles, and you're looked upon differently when you can say my husband.
Yeah. How old were you?
27.
27. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it, I think. But like in terms of feeling like an adult, like I have some moments like recently with becoming more of a full-time comedian and like actually making more money from comedy than my full-time job. That recently, like having financial stability right now. I still owe my parents some money for sure, but like looking at my bank
Who
account,
doesn't?
I know, right? But looking at my bank account recently, and I've finally got my own apartment, and like with an unlimited contract, all these things. I've been feeling a bit more of an adult recently.
Yeah.
Just with financial stability, and that goes straight back to me getting my first job at like 14. It's like financial stability, sadly, is somehow connected to my concept of me being an adult.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
I think of everybody feeling that way.
Yeah.
Financial or being an adult to me is like, do you floss regularly?
And I do. I started doing that like when I went sober in 2020. It's only if you're sober that you remember to floss.
Yeah. Like, well, I got to do something.
There's no flossing in front of people. I've been trying to write a bit about it, but it's just like you can't floss in front of like you can floss in front of like a long-term partner, but like it's disgusting. Like there's no sexy way to floss.
No, it's not nice, and
it's really not. But what was I thinking of before? Feeling as an adult, feeling like an adult. There was something that I wanted to say, but it's gone now.
Financial stability, having your own place.
That's what I wanted to say. I've been feeling old, actually. I feel like I skipped I'm an adult. Like I feel like I really just sway between feeling like I haven't got my shit together and that I'm still a child, and then swaying up like between that and then feeling like I'm old and I'm coming to the end of my like I'm past it.
Yeah, it's all over.
It's all over. Like I'm gonna die really soon, and I'm definitely not gonna have children. I'm not gonna find a loving partner again. Feeling like the grays are really coming. Like just feeling really old. I really just swing between those two poles at the moment.
Yeah, I can resonate with that to some extent, but I also feel like I need to talk you off the ledge a little bit, and
I feel like I'm on the ledge.
But I think what always gives me a lot of like, because I have that feeling sometimes where it's like, also with this fishing thing that I do, where it's like I feel a little bit trapped in this, where it's like now I've gotten used to this like lifestyle where I don't work but I have money, and but I'm like I can't do this forever, but I don't want to do anything else, and what helps me, or even like getting married, which feels like kind of like, whoa, what are we doing? This is crazy, like it's all happening at once, and I'm too selfish to be married. I'm too young to be, I do too many drugs to be married, whatever. But what I think helps me is when I think like when I think, so in 10 years, I'll be like 42. And 10 years ago, I was 22. And when I think about like what 22 was, that feels so long ago. Then being 42, it's like, that's a lot of time. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's like, that's a lot of real estate.
It is a lot of real estate. Yes, good job getting it off the ledge here. I think what I'm currently doing is I'm remembering how I viewed my friends who were getting to who were 36. I'm 35, but I remember 5 years ago, a lot of my friends were a bit older, and being like, I remember viewing my 36-year-old single female friend being like, oh yeah, she's never having children, she might never find a stable partner, and I'm getting to that age now, and I'm like, well, I was married and I've had lots of relationships and I've done lots of I'm working on my career, cool, but it's like, there's I'm starting to see how I viewed people this age before, and I'm now getting to that age, so I'm just like, oh, I didn't think I'd be here.
Yeah, yeah. That's something. I don't know. I feel like my whole thing with like having kids is also skewed because it's like my mom had me when she was 40.
I love
And,
hearing
like,
these stories.
and like they always like, which now in hindsight, and I want to maybe do a bit about this, is like they always told me they're like, never have more than one child. Like one is more than enough. I'm like, oh, okay, so you were saying something about me.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
But so like, I don't know, to me,
I feel like the undertone of that was like, don't have any. Like,
yeah.
more than
They're like, don't even have grandkids. Like, get a dog.
No, they haven't said that, have they?
Yeah.
Really? They were like, don't reproduce.
I mean, they didn't say it so directly, but they're like, I mean, maybe just dogs is
My
nice.
God, I would love my parents to be like that. My mom's like, Anna, I think you should freeze your eggs. She's like, yeah, my mom says things to me like, so you want to stay alone? Like you don't want to, I thought you said you wanted children, Anna. And I'm like, dude, I would, but like, I need to find a partner first.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to just,
This isn't a rom-com from 2004 where I just have the baby on my own.
Exactly. But well, yeah, like I don't want to do that. And yeah. But that's so nice that your parents are just like, maybe just a dog, that the pressure. Like my mom and my brother has 3 children, and yet my mom's still like,
yeah. Well, I think also the thing that affected me, because I'm weird in that, like, when I was like 12, I was like, I want to have kids. Like, I was like, I can't wait to be a dad. Like, when I was really like young, like high school, whatever, I was super into it. And then the older I've gotten, the further and further I've gotten away from that. Mm-hmm. And I think what I've realized is that, like, I had a bunch of adults in my life. Like, my parents were the only one of their friends who had a kid. And so it's like, there were all these adults who had like super fulfilled, amazing lives without children.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of people don't have, like, there should be like some program where like they like are out on a tour talking to people, because it's like, that's like a important message. It's like, you can have a super fulfilled, happy, connected, like meaningful life, and it doesn't have to be
with kids.
With a kid.
Yeah, totally. Like, and I'm starting to look at it now. It's like, I would like to be a mum, but like my best friend has had a baby and I'm like, oof. This looks hard. Yeah. And like, I work with kids and I love kids, but it's like.
But you get to go home.
I get to go home, and it's also just like, your whole life becomes about the child until, and it's great that you've then got this relationship and this person in your life, and, you're a parent, but it's like, I don't know. I always wanted it, and now I'm just like, well, I'm also trying to process like, maybe it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I'm not sure, like, I don't feel this, like in my early 30s, I was like, I was only dating people, like if they wanted to have a kid, and, like, and still now it's like, I do want to date someone that's open to children, but I'm not so like.
How open though?
Yeah, like I don't want them to be like, all right, so when is it, when are we,
tick, tick.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a lot of stuff to do before I really feel like it's a good idea. My mum's always like, there's never a perfect time. And I'm like, there's bad times. I think there are bad times. But why am I talking about this?
I don't know how we got on. I feel like we've slowly just, the end of my podcast is morphing into the beginning
of my podcast.
Your podcast.
But you wanted to, you've moved more and more away, and having positive experiences of adults who have fulfilled lives. Yeah, like that definitely wasn't what I was exposed to growing up. And you got to question like how much of your desire to do something is based on what you've been exposed to. Yeah. And, like I'm open to it, but like I don't have this drive that I had 4 years ago. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I'm being fulfilled by comedy, and my music, and it's not to say that they're mutually exclusive, but like I've got stuff to do. Yeah. Well, we should wrap up here, but I was trying to think like what would be a good something that I could like button on the end here. Yeah.
And so we talked about your first time on stage. But I was like, what could be another good first? And I was like, do you have a memory maybe of either like the first joke that you wrote that you were like, this is what I want it, this is how I want to be doing it, or a memory of like the first time that you really, really like killed and or something like that. Do either of those bring up something for you, or I can scramble and think of another question?
No, yeah. No, for sure. I remember, I remember waking up from a dream and I'm like, this is a joke. And it was really quick to form. And I don't do this joke anymore. It's very, very old. But I remember being super excited. It was Gary Oldman was in my dream. And in my dream, he was trying to have sex with me. And it turned out, like, the next morning, I read that Gary Oldman had been Me Too'd. And but there was a joke in there, and I was super excited about it, and it worked. Like, it did work. It worked. I don't know. It's hard looking back at those first times, because you look back and you're like, this wasn't that good, Anna. It wasn't that good. But actually, no. Yeah, I remember writing this one bit as well, and which I still do very rarely. But it's it's about. It's about being pregnant with the next Messiah, and and writing that. I remember the excitement, and then doing that bit. It does still work, and I like it. It's like, sort of clever writing, maybe a little bit too like written, but it's a good bit, and that was exciting.
And that was like a moment too of like, oh, like this is like, oh, I'm on to something.
Yeah, exactly. And like, like a combination of, pushing topics as well, pushing uncomfortable topics with, clever writing. Yeah. And, and silliness.
Silliness. One of my favorites.
Right. I love silliness. I love being silly.
I love being silly.
Yeah. Do you remember yours?
My first... I feel like this joke about my parents raising me Buddhist vegetarian, that one was because I think when I did stand up when I was 22, I was doing stuff about having two moms, but it was like, besides the ecstasy and the raving, the other reason I stopped was I felt like I was doing like hacky stuff where it was like, oh, like the joke is just like, oh, and my parents are gay, like. And so this time I wanted it to be more like, this is my authentic experience, And so like anytime I get to something that I'm like, oh shit, like, and it's kind of fun to like, I remember like these moments that I'm like, holy shit, like that was so cringy. I've like pushed it so far away, and now because I'm kind of like, where's some more good material, I'm like pulling it back out and I'm like, oh my god, that was so painful, and now I can make it funny.
That's great. Yeah, going back through old notes is like, whoa. Yeah. Whoa, like, and you can hear your voice, when you wrote it down, and you were so excited and you thought it was so funny, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah. I had this.
I'm so much better now.
I had this joke when I started about like my parents teaching me like their sex ed approach, and then it was like the punchline was like the don't ask, don't tell policy in the. Have you heard of this?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
In the States, like in the Army for a while, their thing with gay people was like their policy was don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
And that was the punchline. I was like, well,
yeah. I thought, there's something there. I don't know. I'm sorry. Don't. I don't know. I'm not invested.
Before I have to turn the camera on again, let's. This was super fun.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
People can follow you on Instagram.
Yes, please.
At
AF Beros.
At AF Beros. The link will be in the description below. Follow her shows at Adults Only Comedy. Exactly. Link in the description below. Go see her live in Berlin. Her shows are super funny. Check out her podcast. Did I miss anything?
That's amazing. That's great.
All of it is in there. Check it out. I have over 160 subscribers, so
Oh my
this is going to have a
God.
lot of reach for you.
That's heaps more than me, man.
Thank you. This is fun.
Thank you.
Yay.